Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for switching rooms with us. And with that, we will jump right in and get started. Thank you for joining our first Alumni Office Hour session of the fall term. My name is Jen Bentley, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer for the Faculty of Health. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that much of the work of the University of Waterloo takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within the Office of Indigenous Relations. Here in the Faculty of Health, we are fortunate to have an Indigenous knowledge keeper, Elder Henry, here with us every day to support us in our learning and working to build our community and these relationships within our campus community. That's some of the work specifically taking place in the faculty, which we're very fortunate to have. I'm excited to welcome everyone to this office hour session today with our alumnus, Greg Mittler. I'm not going to introduce him. I will let him do that shortly. But bringing alumni back to connect with our students is an important priority for the faculty and the broader university. We're able to share alumni experiences with our students and show our students what's possible after they've finished their degree. So we do host these sessions every term. If you do have any special career requests that you'd love to see featured, please let me know. I'm always looking for ideas and careers that are of interest to our current students. What we'd love to do today, because we've got a small group, is we're going to do some quick introductions with everyone. And then I will turn it over to Greg and he will introduce himself, share a bit of his story, and then we'll have just a nice small group discussion. So I hope everyone has some questions ready for Greg, and I will ask some as well, and we can jump into things. So why don't we start with some introductions? And Greg, I'm going to end with you so that you can then go into your kind of career story. So again, my name is Jen Bentley. I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer for the Faculty of Health, and I'm also a proud kinesiology grad from the faculty. And Megan, I'll let you go next.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm currently on co-op, so I'm actually a social media assistant with the Recreation and Leisure Department, but I'm actually from the Faculty of Arts, so I'm an ARBIZ, of Arts and Business.
Awesome, thank you. And Haley?
I'm currently a residence learning coordinator with Campus Housing, but also a graduate from the Recreation and Leisure program, both undergrad and graduate.
Thank you. And Greg, you can go ahead.
All right, so I'm Greg. I am the coordinator of esports in the Department of Athletics. I graduated from Recreation and Business, pre-sports business in 2014, and I was actually the valedictorian when I graduated all those years ago. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into in terms of my undergrad experience, or if we want to turn this into more of a conversation. But just like brief highlights on my experience, I think I worked for 9 different departments in my undergrad. I was on the RSA board, involved with Awesome, orientation. I worked the places that I worked at Bomber. I worked for co-op. I worked for the school pharmacy, the SSO, just to name a few, and then spent a lot of time volunteering in athletics as well. I think it might be useful to start with questions so I know which way to angle some of my answers, so I don't bore you with all of my 13 years of experience on campus.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Does anyone want to jump in to start things off? Megan, I know you were saying you were ready with a question.
Sure. So I was wondering what jobs, you don't have to go into detail, but what jobs on campus did you have before your current position as the esports coordinator?
So in a full-time capacity, before I was in this role, I was the coordinator of sports clubs and camps. So I dealt with launching a lot of our new camps program for the department over the last 6 years. I dealt with all of our competitive clubs. I did some time with aquatics and some time with training and development. I worked on all of our training and development in the department. And before that, I was on the interview day services team in co-op. So I managed that team. So anytime that you're in that co-op building, which you may not have actually been in the co-op building yet, but if you have been, with your interviews, what would happen is that you have a check-in desk where you get sent to all of your different interviews, and we have 200 and something different employers there every day. I managed and coordinated the execution of the interviews and sending people to the appropriate rooms and ensuring employers got what they needed. And before that, like I said, I don't even know how many different jobs in my undergrad.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, good.
No problem. Haley, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Sure, yeah, great to meet you, Greg. I actually ran into Luke Patorka yesterday from the Recreation and Leisure Department, and he mentioned, I know you're relatively new to the role, but he mentioned that you have some really cool ideas of just moving forward with esports, potentially venues. I would love to hear more about that if you can spill some of the details.
I will share what I'm allowed to share for now, but so for reference, we have been in the process of engaging with esports since probably 2018. We commissioned some studies, and like there's a lot of interest at like a very high level on campus for pushing this portfolio forward. So I've been doing it sort of off the side of my desk for about 2.5 years, even though my title just changed. So that I finally have a single focus as opposed to 5 or 6 different focuses. So with that, yes, there's definitely engaging conversation with developing space on campus. In the meantime, though, we've been working with the Waterloo Region Esport Commission, which is a group that connects with the tourism industry in Waterloo Region, some of the event promoters, and like the folks that run the Odd, Conestoga, Laurier, and ourselves, and we're one of the leaders in that group. So we're trying to push for development in the region because it's probably one of the most prime regions outside of the GTA, Vancouver, and Montreal in Canada to further develop esports. So some of that is looking to tie it into education in a number of different ways. Some of it is to continue to promote our competitive groups. So we have, similar to our varsity teams, we have 3 different titles that we support. So right now it's Valorant, League of Legends, and Rocket League. And we compete in 8 to 10 leagues, depending on the season. And then we also run larger scale recreational tournaments every month. So during the pandemic, it was kind of a nice way to be able to engage with the community when everyone was abroad. Like as long as you had a broadband internet, we tried to remove as many barriers as we could. So there were some competitive games that you would need to pay to play, but other ones that we offered that were as free range as we could. Yeah, and so we've also been working with the Games Institute to try to develop the portfolio a little bit further. So is there anything specifically you want me to dive into?
Oh, that sounds very cool. It's one of my passions. So just hearing about how it's expanding is really great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. No problem. Yeah, and I mean, speaking of residents, we also have my manager is actually just in a meeting with Alex Petico right before this, so I don't know what the conclusion of that is yet, but we're going to make some moves to support some programming in residence as well.
That's awesome. Yes, because I know we have Village One has that esports center, so yeah, we might be collaborating relatively
for sure. And some of that came, like I said, there's some higher level administration staff that are standing behind and pushing esports, and that build came directly from some program planning that we did with Glenn and my manager Adam, and I went to Windsor to check out St. Clair College's setup and wanting to bring a little taste of that here. And it's a little bit of our proof of concept utilizing that. Is just very poor timing after we commissioned everything, and then no one was in residence for year and a half, or unable to actually use the space. So this is the first full semester I think that we're actually able to fully utilize it, which is great.
Awesome. One of the questions that was submitted in registration, I'm going to ask now, but it said, when you graduated, did you think you would have ended up as the coordinator esports and gaming at the University of Waterloo? And originally, what occupation did you see yourself pursuing?
So I mean, the short answer is no. I was working full time in cooperative education. I had a pretty clear career path of working through their management stream, and had a management team that pushed me into that stream and wanted me to go that way. And I was actually doing my master's at that point as well in recreation and leisure, and didn't even see myself continuing in the rec field. I was like, well, this is kind of pointless. So I stopped going to, I quit my master's at that point, only to get a job in athletics 4 months later. So I don't know if that's kicking myself or whatever. Everyone's got their own journey. But I came to realize pretty quickly, and this is just, I know, kind of a flag that I would bring up with most people. My background wasn't esports in the slightest. Like I came from no money, so I couldn't afford anything growing up. I think I got my first N64 when I was 21. So that was a while ago. But I had a ton of experience in program planning, evaluation, execution, and I would say that's probably the most universal tool that you get from a rec degree, is because it's applicable everywhere. And esports in itself, it parallels a lot of sports. Like there's nuances and differences, obviously, but a lot of the background is very in parallel with sport in general and program planning, evaluation, execution. So yeah, I knew that that's where my skill set was moving towards. But then when we wanted to launch esports, would be probably the third or fourth large scale project that I wanted to do on campus. And I just saw it as a great new challenge to be able to say, hey, I will kind of want to get my fingerprints on this, because I think that we can do a lot of good with it. So yeah.
Well, thanks. And I think you started to touch on this, but actually you may have just already answered this. But one of the other questions, what skills did you build and learn in university that you now use in your day-to-day work? And maybe you can talk about like which courses maybe were important to you.
Oh, that means I have to remember the course codes. So, I mean, for reference, all of the course codes would have changed since I graduated, because I was on a board, like I was a student representative for undergrad when the Recreation and Leisure Department went through and reorged everything. So I think it's 120 now, is a very good taste of what to expect and the types of courses that you could / should continue in your rec degree. I want to say it's 311. I don't know if it's still true anymore, but event planning is incredibly useful as well in your rec degree. And again, like one of the things that we're trying, or that we're working on right now with Luke Petwarka specifically and myself, is tying in esports as components of the rec event minor. So those are, I don't know how many different courses we're looking at yet. We're still in the initial stages, but those would be some pretty big ones that I pulled skills from and like I said, I'm investing back into now at this point.
Great, thanks. feel free to use like the raise hand button if you want to jump in and ask more questions, or just unmute and jump in. But I will keep asking some based on some things that were submitted. So another question someone asked was, what is the most challenging thing about working in esports?
I mean, I think it depends on the lens that you're trying to take. So if I were to say collegiate esports specifically, the greatest challenge that I find is the lack of sport organizations and Canadian representation. So we have very strong esports teams, especially our League of Legends team, which has in the past 4 years they've been in the top 16 in North America, which means that we're competing against some of the big schools like the Dukes, the North Carolinas. Like those are like the more flashy names, but like the powerhouses are actually like California Irvine. But it's very difficult in a Canadian context to give that point of reference because there's no Canadian, like strong Canadian leagues across the board or Canadian divisions. And in that, it makes regulations a little bit harder for us to develop and follow because the American school system doesn't align with us. So that'd be like trying to get the OUA or U Sport to align with the NCAA, which is no small feat. But I would say that's one of the biggest challenges on the competitive side with my role right now. On the flip side, it is living in a digital world and trying to advertise all of the benefits to our incoming students. Or I guess the other pieces is like trying to convey all of the skill sets that you need and can develop in this space to anyone that's unfamiliar with it. So if you're unfamiliar with esports, most typically the stereotype is you're sitting in someone's basement with Cheeto dust on your fingers and slamming Red Bulls. There are slamming Red Bulls. I won't take that away from them. They definitely shouldn't be drinking as many energy drinks as they should. But the skill sets you get, like you don't just have players, you don't just have coaches. It's similar to any other sports organization you can think of, or you need trainers, you need people developing social media, you need nutritionists, dietitians, everything like that if you're trying to do high level esports. Same with lawyers that are working on player contracts. A lot of that's brand new. Even the leagues that they are developing or have developed, they're working through, I don't want to call them their infancy because a lot of them they've been around for a while, but they're going through their growing pains of figuring out how to do large scale funding without just constantly having in-person events. So if you look at the financial structure of professional esports, 60% of the finances come from sponsorship. But if you did it on the flip side of traditional sports, it's a lot of it is ticket sales from going to see championships, which you can only really get into in the final stages of some of the professional esports. Anyways, that's my long-winded way of saying it depends on the lens that you want to take on it, but there's a number of different challenges day to day, and that's part of why my role exists, is to navigate those in a constructive way.
And the question is, do you like all of these challenges? Some of them are like a good challenge, and other ones you wish would go away.
I can't say I've come across one that I'm like, I wish this would just go away. Well, I lied. There's sometimes networking challenges that I wish would just go away because, again, not super my background, but making sure that you meet the needs of your players with the technology that you give them, and the insane cost that some of it can be, and requirements that you need to meet, and how quickly that updates can be challenging. But on the flip side, the other ones, it's very much it's a great challenge to try to set expectations in a world like this. So we look at a number of different problems that we can find in traditional sport organizations that are coming to light, like the assault scandal that's going on in Hockey Canada, or scandals, I'm sure, with Hockey Canada right now, and set a better expectations at the ground level for your own org. It's nice to be a part of that, and to I don't know, this sounds corny, but just like build a better world with your organization, and try to make sure that our biggest challenges are, oh, we don't like our schedule because it is interfering with Canadian Thanksgiving versus American Thanksgiving. I can get over problems like that. It's easier to work through problems like that than more challenging environmental or structural issues that are deeply ingrained in an organization.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. American Thanksgiving and Canadian Thanksgiving is definitely maybe not easy to work through, but it's an easier problem to have.
Yes, less negative impact out of that.
Yeah. Does anyone want to jump in with another question before I take things maybe in a slightly different direction?
Or can I flip it? Haley, were you the one that did some studies in your master's on esports? Do you want to dive into any of that?
Yeah, that was me. And even just hearing the challenges that you just spoke about, because I did mine on gaming and well-being and social connectedness. So when you mentioned like the stereotype of just the gamers being kind of socially isolated, and that's I find that not to be the case. So it's really interesting to hear kind of the stereotype versus what actually is, and breaking those boundaries down, and the challenge of showing the benefits of gaming. So as I mentioned, this is a passion, and yes, I did my thesis on this. So it's always interesting to hear other perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think that that's something that's interesting on our campus as a very unique example of trying to tie students to community if they leave every 4 months. So physically being on campus can create challenges, or if they're going on co-op and feeling socially isolated when they're abroad, wherever. And as long as they're on the appropriate servers that we can get them on, this is excuse me, a medium to make them feel connected to their friends still. All of our competitive teams too, like most of our players aren't on site or in KW, or I shouldn't say most, at least half of our players are off site from KW, but they're still getting an experience with their teammates to compete against other groups across the country and across North America. So yeah, it's definitely a strong tool for social connection.
100%.
Were there any challenges or questions that you came across in your master's that you're like, what do I do with this?
That's a good one. Well, actually, Luke Petrarca was on the chair or on my committee for my defense. So he was like, "Do you know Campus Housing has an esports center?" And I was like, "Funny enough, I work for them." So yes, I do. But yeah, the challenge of community is a big one, and just knowing where to go with it. If you're going to use the esports as the community building, or if you're going to help. I think just directions, because you can take in community building of just like that sense of connection that everyone's gone every 4 months or something like that, finding that tie. But then there's also the way of teaching them skills, like showing not just the students, but also the parents, because they're the ones helping their students pick the school, or even maybe paying for their schooling, of just like, why would I send my child to go do esports? Like that's something that can be a hobby. There's no way you can make a career out of that. So breaking that down and showing like what skills they can work on. Is it just like the gaming skills, becoming a better League of Legends player? Or is it like you can use these skills and get a co-op job at Google? Different directions, and there's so much possibility. So just hearing you talk about the challenges really wants me to get my hands on it and just help work through these things, but nothing outside of that really. Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, no, exactly. Like and I like exactly what you're describing. So not just the competitive players, and not just making the best possible players we can, because that's not our sole focus. Our sole focus is to build on the student experience, because they're still students first.
Mhm.
But we're currently going through a reorg ourselves, because we took chunks of what was the club and we're turning it into more of an organization.
Mhm.
But showing people who might be just terrible at video games, but they love it, which is some of my executives. They're like their Discord names, or one of them's Horif, which is like a play on I'm horrific at all video games. But building their event skills or their marketing skills or anything else like that, yeah, like it's a great realm to be able to push those skill sets.
Mhm. Okay, Greg, I was gonna take things in a bit of a different direction and
Okay.
ask about like how important you think you mentioned you had many jobs on campus. So curious if you have like advice or thoughts on how important you thought kind of having all of those different jobs and building your network on campus was to getting you to kind of where you are today.
I mean, I don't know if that's a loaded question or not. So, yes, the network is incredibly important. That's actually one of the first things that I tell students. So like I ran a Rec 120 class a week or two ago, and that was one of the pieces of advice that I gave out, is the most important thing you can do on campus is get involved and get connected so you can build your network. Because one, it's way easier to figure out what's going on in the world if you have a connection point in different areas. Um, but two, you can also get your different perspectives. And I think, like, as soon as I had posted on my LinkedIn or whatever that I officially had started the esports role, I think I had at least 30 different people from across campus reach out for advice and connection about programming we're trying to do. And it makes it way easier to try to centralize a lot of programming, because that's a whole other challenge of working for a university or an institution this big, is the silos that can exist if you don't have those personal connections.
What other tips and advice do you share with students when you're teaching classes?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Your mic didn't pick up the first bit.
Oh, I said, what other advice or tips do you share with students?
I mean, it gets personalized depending on what it is that they're trying to achieve. One of the biggest things, so going back to my co-ops, I think it was my second co-op, I did a lot of work on AHS 101, because I saw a problem that a lot of our AHS students had very consistent requirements for their jobs in their very first co-op, that I was pretty annoyed that that information wasn't shared with me in my first and second year. And then I felt like I was kind of a half step behind. So some of it was, 90% of your jobs are going to require first aid or X, Y, and Z, and it depended on the certifications. So I tell them to get those. And the second piece that I tell them is, if you're in a co-op program, and this is, I know, kind of not always the best angle to crush dreams right away, but like, if you're in a co-op program and you want to be that person that works in professional sport down the line, don't count on co-op to do that for you. Look for your volunteer experiences as much as you possibly can, because you need to have paid positions for those to count as your co-op, and unless you want to go like the edge route or anything else. And most professional orgs, like the MLSE or anything else like that, aren't going to pay you. So make sure you have experience elsewhere, or like Kitchener Rangers or any of the other orgs. And again, networking is the biggest piece in that afterwards, because it creates more opportunities. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
I feel like your mic is having a 2 or 3 second delay every time you unmute, Jen.
Oh my gosh, really? Cool.
There we go.
It's a good day. Well, thank you for sharing those tips and tricks. Megan, Haley, do you have any other questions for Greg? Or Greg, any other like fun facts or things you'd like to
Fun
share?
facts. I mean, one thing that I would share I mean, specifically Haley, if esports is your jam, is making sure that you're on our Discord, because that's where we're trying to push most of our information through. Um, but yeah, I just trying to get as many students as we can involved in our program as we're pushing to expand. But tips and tricks, I don't know. It really depends on the questions you want to ask.
Okay. Well, if the two of you don't have any other questions, Greg, if there's anything else you want to cover, we have some time for that. And if not, we can wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing I'm kind of covering is more advertising at this point, pushing like if anyone wants to know about esports on campus or get involved to reach out to me directly. Like we're working on building our network and being more accessible to anyone that is interested. Because another big thing is it's very much a discovery program right now where people can stumble upon it, and we don't want it to be that way. We'd like you to know that it exists and all the opportunities within it. But that's a challenge of just growing and becoming more established. So outside of that, whatever questions you have, even if you think of any more on here right now or afterwards, feel free to reach out.
Great. Greg, maybe you can drop your contact information in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out. And yeah, that way, further questions. Seems like Haley and Greg, you might have a newfound friendship and can continue your esport journey. Haley, I'm sure Greg can help you out with some more of your interests in that. But otherwise, just wanted to say thank you to everyone for attending. I think Megan also would like to take a quick screenshot so she can post on the social media accounts of thank you for the event today. So Megan, if you want to count us down for the picture.
Okay. Should remember how to do this. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks so much for doing that. And I just want to let everyone know as well that you will get, you should get an email from 10,000 Coffees to share some feedback about today's session. So feel free to fill that out quickly. It's just choosing some smiley face emojis, so nice and easy to complete. And Greg, thank you so much for giving your time today for our students and sharing your insights and your experience with us. Megan, did you have another question?
Well, I have 2 things. One, I have to take the screenshot again, so sorry. And 2, I just want to say this was really cool, getting to hear from you, Greg, and also Haley, hearing like about your masters. So I just want to say, I don't know that much about esports, but this was actually really great, like just learning about it in general and how you want to get people involved. So thank you. Are you guys okay if I do the picture again?
Yes,
Sure.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Just gonna do it this way because I have a monitor, so it took a picture of what's on my monitor. So okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think it worked. Just gonna check. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There we go. Awesome. And this is where I'm going to say to you, Megan, to tell your friends about our alumni office hour sessions, because there's always lots of fun learning that happens. Maybe you're not sure if like this is a career you want to know more about, or, you know, you assume like, oh, I'm not going to come because I don't know anything about that. But it's a great opportunity to learn new things, new jobs that exist. And we're always trying to help our students do some of that exploration while they're here before they enter the working world. So spread the word.
Hello.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. And Greg, if you can hang on for a minute. But yeah, we'll see you all hopefully around BMH sometime or the expansion building. And everyone go check out Greg's esports.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming.
Bye.
Thank you.